So thank you for taking part in this little series of things that we do. Just love to talk to successful local business owners and give us an opportunity for other people to hear about your experiences and your successes and the challenges along the way. Hopefully, somebody can hear this and go, I want to do that, or I had that problem. And
yeah,
it's just, I think it's just interesting to talk to people. And it's just there's far more to Memphis than people ever give credit for. There's far more people here who are successful, have great ideas, and I just try and find those people and highlight them and just give it a chance for people to see that. I think it's just really great. I've been here since '87, and it's grown tremendously in that time. And I think the people living here have grown tremendously in that time too. It's just such a great place to be.
I love it. I always say if you love Memphis, it'll love you back.
Yes, that's very true. So tell me a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are and the business that you're in.
Absolutely. I started out in television news. I was a reporter for about a decade. So I was in front of the camera every day for the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock newscasts. I did every shift too. So that meant sometimes I did the morning show.
Yeah.
So I was the one that you woke up to that was live from whatever happened overnight. And I did that in 3 markets over the course of almost a decade. And when I got to Memphis, my parents live here, and it's sort of a dream market to be in the same place as my family and for them to see me do what I love. But when I got here about 18 months in, after covering all kinds of amazing big stories, I started to really feel like it was sort of sucking the life out of me. I felt like I was constantly going live in front of crime tape.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a crime problem in many cities, but I also know there's a lot more good, and there's a lot of people doing work to prevent and change that. And I felt like I wasn't getting the opportunity to showcase those stories. So I picked up my camera. I have, obviously, as a video journalist, I had my own camera too.
Yes.
And I started capturing volunteer experiences with nonprofits or events that I went to. And I would put them together in a little video vignette just for fun. It was like sort of my creative outlet. And nonprofits started to catch on. A couple of folks said, can you make one of those for us? Can you do an event recap for us? And so in 2014, I started the LLC with no intention to turn it into a business with now nine full-time employees, including my husband, who's my business partner. And I did that for a while. I was still working in television and really, trying to decide, do I want to still do this, or do I really want to become a business owner?
Yeah.
The answer was no. I didn't want to become a business owner. Here I am. And so about the time my contract was up, we made the decision, my husband and I, to take on the company full time. That was after about 6 months of saving up money so that I could live off of, the money we'd saved, and so that there wasn't pressure to, bring in something to make a living off of.
Yeah.
And I left television in 2016. My last day on air, I was cut off by a technical difficulty. So the screen went to color bars, which was very metaphoric for the way that my career ended. It's like, see you later, peace. And the very next day, I started telling stories that I couldn't tell in that form. And in my first year solo, we did 6 figures in revenue. And I thought, oh my God, I can't keep this up or I'm going to burn out. And so that's when we started thinking a little bit differently about bringing on our first hire in 2017 and an intern. And now we've built it up to 3 office locations later. We have 9 full-time employees and now have an office in Chicago with 2 employees. So we've expanded, and our primary focus is nonprofits and business owners.
That's fantastic. I mean, so when you made the decision to go on your own and do your own thing, was there obviously trepidation involved in that, whether or not you could actually make that happen? How did you go about getting your clients?
Well, first off, there was an identity crisis involved in leaving the camera, being on camera and being Lauren Squires was my name, was my maiden name. That's who I was on TV. And what I didn't realize is that came with a lot of credibility. Everybody knew me for being on TV. And so the first, really the first 2 or 3 years, it was word of mouth. People, they knew me as Lauren Squires, not Lauren Reedy, which is my actual legal name.
Right.
And so we sort of lived off of word of mouth referrals and people knowing me from my previous life. And I think probably what's been the most challenging part as we've grown is to step away from it being about Lauren Squires Reedy, to being Forever Ready Productions. And sort of the evolution of it being not just me, I'm not solo anymore, but then also me bringing on folks who are better at some things than I am, right? That can execute things that I couldn't by myself, and that bring new perspective and new attention to detail, and just different things that elevate the way we tell stories. But the challenge has always been, how do we bring people in and trust, the relationship they have with me, and then trust my team to not hand off, but really to take the reins and make it come to life. Yeah. So that's always been a challenge.
Yeah. So for you personally, then it's that letting go, which is
absolutely,
which is quite often the case with somebody who founds their own business, because they trust themselves, and it's difficult to hand some of those things off and have that belief that somebody else is going, it's basically your name that's on it.
Right. One of the things that I've discovered is this concept of zone of genius. So what are you good at? What are you the best at? And not in an egotistical way, but what are you the best at?
Yeah.
And when I think about that, my zone of genius is really storytelling, seeing the story. And it's not all the other things. And so that's how it's been hard, but that's how I've been able to hire and grow, is finding places that are not best uses of my time as a business owner, and places that don't let me thrive, and bringing on folks who love doing those things, who that is their zone of genius. And the other thing is to get a good integrator, a good number two that can hold me accountable to things that I say, and make sure that I'm not stepping in a way that derails the whole project, or kills the creativity. And I think I've learned that lesson the hard way, by getting in the way too much, or by trying to do it all when I have a team that can do it, just as well, if not better.
When I was hiring people, I always tried to do the fill my gaps. I'm a terrible cold caller. I absolutely despise cold calling and stuff like that. So,
Same.
So all that pre-sales stuff, put me in front of a group of people to talk about what I do, and I'm just fine, just totally natural. But the actual making that first contact is always, just sometimes I could probably do it, but mentally I just could never get my head around it. So I always hired people that were good at doing that, and led down the path and everything. So working with a lot of nonprofits, is that a financial challenge? Do they have limited resources? I mean, how do you go about that?
That's what's one of the things that's been so challenging, is that my heart is in working with nonprofits, and some of them have the funds. Believe it or not, nonprofits do have the money to invest in video, specifically in the way that we do video. So one of our big things is to make it approachable and attainable, accessible to nonprofits, so that it's not all of their marketing budget to produce a video for their gala. But the challenge is that sometimes there's a mindset in nonprofits that they don't have the money to invest. And in the past, because I'm a generous person, I think I've probably sold us short on what our videos can be worth. And so what I've gotten to as we've developed and grown is, sometimes it may not be the right fit. Sometimes if you don't have or aren't willing to make a little bit of an investment in the project, then there's not a mutual sense of value here. And that's okay. And so then we work to help them figure out how to best tell the story in the best way they can with the budget they have. But I have also been surprised at how building relationships really can get folks to trust you. Like you believe in their story, you understand their mission, they're willing to invest if they know and feel that way. And, through COVID, when COVID hit and everybody just stopped, the first question I ask is, what can we do to help? And what that turned into is a lot of this live stuff. We basically pivoted everything, and I hate the word pivot, but that's what we did. We pivoted everything into virtual fundraisers and virtual events. And it wasn't the most exciting, fulfilling documentary kind of work, but it solved the problem and served the needs of nonprofits in those moments. And so sometimes you kind of have to let go of your ego and say, this is what the market needs right now.
Yep.
And it may not be what I love to do all the time, but it's the thing that's going to help. And so it's that building trust in, okay, this is going to be worth the investment because they believe in our mission and they know our story as well as us. And we trust that they're going to take it and do it with care. So you'd be surprised how much nonprofits are willing to invest once you build that relationship.
Yeah. So pricing, for small business owners, price is always a touchy subject because you always want to be the best, and when as a coach, I tell people it's not always the best thing to be the cheapest.
Right.
The best thing is to determine why you are better than everybody else and price it appropriately.
Exactly.
Because people don't always shop just by price. They want quality that goes with that. And so I always recommend they work on what's their USP, what's their unique selling proposition.
Yep.
That sets them apart. And obviously you have something similar.
And when I first started out, I was definitely the cheapest in the market. And that's what got me a lot of work in the beginning, is the ability to say, hey, I can do this quickly. I can do it, cheap. And it's going to be good quality. But now as I've grown the team and there's more added value, I think our prices reflect that. And sometimes along the way, we have to explain, well, it's not just me anymore.
Right.
and it's going to be better because of it. And I've learned sort of the hard way. It's not always best to win because you're the cheapest.
Yes.
That if that's what it's all about, and that's why you've won, then if you've won a bid or something like that, it's not always going to be overly fulfilling because you probably underestimated how much time it would take, what you're worth, what your employees are worth. And it may not be valued to the degree that it should be by your client. So pricing is a challenge. And, I'm actually currently working on an article to share with our followers about pricing that's a little more candid and open and says, here's what goes into the costs and here's why. But that's hard to do. And again, what it comes down to is it a good fit?
Yeah.
And does it make sense that we both work together? Because if it doesn't, that's okay. And we just get better at finding the niche.
Experience-wise, you're probably in the case where the people who are shopping by price are by nature going to be your hardest person to work with, because even though they want the lowest price, they still
high expectations.
Yes.
High expectations.
Their expectations don't go lower just because they want to keep the price on.
They still want that cinema quality video for $500. So, and the thing is, a lot of times what I do, instead of saying no, we can't do that, I say, here's what we can do for that. And kind of reset their expectations. And if they're willing to do that, then it often ends up being a good fit because they work with us and vice versa. But if it's nope, I need this and this is the price, then I've gotten a lot better at saying that's not going to be a good fit.
But so it's, in your opinion, it's better to turn away business because it doesn't feel right, it doesn't fit right, whether it's through a price or personality or whatever indicators you have. Rather than just take everything on, it's better to be selective because you end up making more profit, make more margin.
Absolutely, especially with where we're at in, since 2014 of our founding. I would say in the beginning, it's, you're trying to build awareness and build clients in your market. And so I wouldn't say that I took on everything, but I did take on almost everything that came through the door, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to go, nope, this isn't the kind of project we do, or this isn't a good fit personality wise. And we get a little bit better about it. But yes, I have learned, especially as we've grown, that, sometimes it's not, sometimes you have to say no. And it doesn't mean you have to say no and it's business, right?
Yeah. And
the best thing I can do is refer them to someone else who might be a better fit.
Right.
And I've seen our competitors do the same. Yeah. So, I think that's a healthy thing to have so that you're not just dominating for the sake of dominating.
Yeah.
And what guides us in that is our core values.
Right.
So we really put everybody who comes through our doors through that lens, and it helps us decide, is this a good fit or not?
That's perfect. I mean, that's an ideal business scenario there.
It's taken a lot of time to get there, though.
Sure. Yeah. It's one of the reasons it's great to talk to people like you, because you've gone through that and you've arrived at this point. And the sooner people, the business owners in their cycle, learn to be able to do that, the sooner they hit those areas where they're actually starting to look at their margins and realize that it's just because I'm busy doesn't mean to say I'm making money.
Right. That is absolutely the thing.
You can be rushed off your feet, but you're not making any money.
Right.
So, in this business, it's a bit like web developing. Everybody knows somebody who's got a camera. And, my nephew.
I mean, look right here.
My nephew can do this for me for, half the price and things.
Right.
You come across a lot of that.
A lot. In fact, in our quarterly retreat we just had in July, or our sort of mid-year retreat, we were talking about, we did a SWOT analysis. And, when you look at threats, it's a real threat, but it can be an opportunity. And so it's about differentiating. How are we different than what you shoot on your cell phone, what you make with a TikTok, And sometimes if somebody comes to me and they say, we want you to make a TikTok, I'm like, no, you don't.
No.
You want to make one yourself. And here's 10 tips on how to shoot with your cell phone. You don't want to hire us to do that. It's just not a good ROI. And that is a real, we've got to adapt to that, because one of the things that I don't want to become is a dinosaur.
Right.
I don't want to be like, oh, we only do it this way because this is better quality. And so that's another example of kind of setting aside your ego.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to sign all my emails with it said #say-no to vertical video. Okay. That is, and I still believe that.
Yes.
And I have evolved in understanding that is the way people are consuming on their phones right now. Right. And until our phones are horizontal, which will probably be never.
Yes.
We're horizontal on our screens,
right.
And we're horizontal at home on our TVs. We've got to adapt. And so we have started, it hurts me to say this, but we have started, exporting our videos in a vertical format, and they play well. And so it's just about going, okay, this is the current trend. It doesn't mean we jump on and dive completely into that trend, because maybe it'll go away. I hope. I'm speaking it into the universe, even though I have a feeling it won't. But it's about adapting, because there are folks with phones and they're doing great stuff because it's authentic and in the moment and real. And so how are we different is the conversation we have probably once every quarter of what are we doing that's different from that? And is it valuable to our customer?
When I used to coach youth soccer, and in the beginning, people had cameras and they would take pictures, and then they had cell phones. What I found interesting was that the people's expectations of quality came down, and that people understanding of what a decent photograph was lowered, because they just took them on the camera and thought, hey, this is great, because it's a picture, but you couldn't do, it was such low quality that anything beyond the phone, and they couldn't do anything else with it. And I love your point about the vertical world, because I'm constantly astounded that people take vertical pictures of teams.
I know. Why? Turn your phone sideways.
Can you all get closer together? No. Could you turn your camera horizontal? Then we'll all get in.
One of the things that I challenge people is I say, if you're about to shoot video on your phone, I'm saying this to whoever's watching, and you're going to use it for any other place besides Instagram and TikTok, then turn it sideways. Nice. If you're going to use it for a year-end recap video, if you're going to use it to make a film, if you're going to use it to print like a photo, turn it horizontally. But if you're just using it to share with your friends where you are, or share with your customers about something in your store or whatever, vertical's fine. But I don't think it's good to translate back and use that in any other way. So I always just say, think about what you're going to use it for before you press record.
Yes. Yeah.
There's my little
pro tip for the day there.
Pro tip.
That's great. Well, it's a great story, and the fact that you're expanding into cities like Chicago is phenomenal. Because you obviously have something that appeals to people, whether it's through nonprofits or just through the quality of the work that you do. Chicago must be full of competitors and so it's just a great place to challenge yourself for growth. And do you see yourself growing further, or is there a limit to what you think you want to be involved in?
I would love to have a Forever Ready office in several major cities. where we're serving this niche of nonprofits and small businesses that are, I don't know, somewhere between, I would say under 10 million. You know, there's like in revenue, there's a real niche there where they might have a marketing person who also wears a couple different hats, but they certainly don't have, you know, a video person on staff. What I have found is the market is very much oversaturated with freelancers and big production houses. Yeah. And I feel like we're in the middle. Everyone on our staff is full-time. We very rarely use contractors unless we need something special. And that's by design. And so my hope is that we grow into Minneapolis and, you know, spread over to Kansas City or St. Louis or something like that, because those cities certainly have spaces, right? They have folks that are doing that work, but that aren't necessarily specifically focused on these markets. Right. And my goal is to make video accessible. And I think that can be done with a smaller crew, with less of a timeline, long process, that kind of thing. Cool. So when I started it, I said, it'd be really neat to open in one other office in the Midwest. Yeah. And now that we've done that and put more processes into place that make it more replicatable, that makes the dream feel like, let's do more with this. Yeah. But I think the key is the relationships, and that's hard to establish. Right. In Chicago, our staff there, our director of photography grew up in Chicago. So he's got existing relationships. His business partner and fiance also was a reporter. So she knows how to build those sources and those relationships. And so that's going to be the challenge in growing, is not just coming in and being like, hey guys, we're here, but really investing in the relationships with the nonprofit leaders and business owners, saying, hey, we're doing this in other places. We value this community and we want to be here to help you tell your story. Yeah, you've established your template and you're going to replicate that template in these different places. Right. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. It was wonderful to talk. It's a great thing that you're doing. And just, again, successful business people, they're the heart of this city. And it's just great to be able to put the names out there and talk to people, just so that other people can learn that it is possible to be successful despite whatever you see on the evening news every night. Absolutely. There are good things going on. Thank you so much for your time, Lauren. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks. All right. Bye-bye. Bye.